With home prices still high and mortgage rates all over the place, a lot of people are wondering, is now the right time to buy a house? On today's episode of the Elite Realty Group Podcast, we're going to answer all of that and more. Look at the current market, look at what's going on to provide you the data to answer that question. Thank you for tuning in to the Elite Realty Group Podcast. Here we go. Hello and welcome again, everyone, to the Elite Realty Group Podcast, where we're bringing you the most up-to-date, relevant real estate information you are going to find anywhere on the planet. I am Mike Elkins with Elite Realty Group in Morristown, Tennessee. Got my partner and co-host, Mr. Dave Elkins, also from Elite Realty Group in Morristown, Tennessee. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing fine, man. Doing fine. It's East Tennessee weather starting to come alive, so I like it.
I got you. It's the weather's changing. The spring is here. Everybody is ramping up, question marking what's happening in the real estate market, especially going into the spring. Typically every year, spring market, everybody knows, is the market.
It's the best market.
That's when you go. That's when people decide it's been a long, cold winter. I'm tired of this apartment. I'm tired of this house. I'm tired of this location. And a lot of people jump into the real estate market in the spring of every year. I think if you ask people that's in our business, they'll tell you, hey, that's probably when you see a lot of activity is, of course, in the spring.
Yep.
But this year there's question marks.
Yeah, a little uncertainty floating around out there.
There's no doubt about it. People's asking, is this the time to buy a house?
Right.
There's the question out there that, is this the worst time to buy a house?
Right.
Do I really want to get into
Yeah.
this spring market? Because there's a lot of things happening. There are a lot of moving parts that's happening in this real estate market. We get this question all the time. Is now a terrible time for me to buy a house? Talk to me, y'all. You're the pros. You're the realtors. You guys supposed to have the answers. What's going on with this? What's going on with that? Thus, let's do a podcast and answer all of these questions. I think it'll be very, very eye-opening to a lot of people. I think we'll be able to give you some good information.
Yep.
But again, just more of what I'll say, a discussion today. For us to be able to answer this question, is now a terrible time to buy a house? So let's dive into the thought process of why a lot of people are asking that question. Why do people think now's a bad time to buy a house? Thoughts on that?
Well, obviously, I'm going to say it probably starts with home prices. Home prices are still up.
Sure.
So, again, I look at this different ways, man. Prices on everything. I'm going back to everything has went up drastically in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's went up. So home prices are still up. There's a lot of people that are waiting to see, are they going to drop? Now, that is the question. Are they going to drop?
Sure.
I don't know that.
I
don't know that.
I've got an interesting take on this.
Okay.
I got an interesting take. Last week in our MLS here in the Lakeway area, East Tennessee area, we had 66 price reductions. Okay?
In 7 days.
In 7-day period of time. Yeah. In a week's period of time, we had 66 price reductions.
Right.
That is leading people to ask the question that you just said.
Right.
Can't answer.
Yeah.
Here's my take on that, okay? Here's my take on that. We've talked about this a lot on these different podcasts and shows that we do. I think a lot of people right now are literally, I'm going to make this short and sweet to the point. They're coming onto the market with their listing, with their home, and they are just priced too high to start with.
They are out of touch with reality.
They're just not right to start with.
Right.
And I think that's that way literally across the country. I really think people are coming onto the market too high. They went too much.
Yep.
I understand y'all try to get as much as you can. That's what we want to do. That's what you want to do. That satisfies the whole crowd.
Right.
But there's still a too high. That's just too high.
Yeah.
I think a lot of homes that, are days on the market's ticking up. things like that's happening, and it's making people ask the question that you're saying, like, oh man, I'm seeing all these price reductions. Home price is going to come down. There's going to be a price. I don't think it has anything to do with other than people are just understanding I priced my house too high.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as I think people are waiting, they're saying that prices are too high. If you are waiting for prices to come back down to 2018 pricing or 2020 pricing, I don't know that that's going to happen. I just don't know that the prices as a whole are going to drop back down. Again,
Right.
you could look at this historically on everything. Car prices are not what they was in 2018 or
Right.
2019 or 2020. They're not that anymore. They're higher.
Mhm.
Groceries, everything that you talk about is higher now. So
Sure.
if you're waiting for that, I think you're going to be waiting forever.
Yeah.
I just don't know that it's going to happen.
I don't know.
I mean, again, good for everybody if it does, right? I mean, good for us all. I will take that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just don't know if that's going to happen. So
Yeah.
if you're waiting for that, you might be waiting a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're talking about the thought of, like, people are asking the question, is now a bad time to buy a house? Well, those thought processes are literally, that's what they're asking, like home prices. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's a wrong time to buy because home prices are high.
Right.
I get it. There's no argument there. Okay?
Yeah, but and we've
There's
said
no
this,
argument there.
We've said this before, though. There's been people who have been saying that. We know personally since 2021
Sure.
that they're just going to wait because prices can't keep going up like this.
Yes.
And again, it did go up quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Mhm.
So you're right. Prices could not keep going up like that, and they didn't. They have evened out now.
Leveled out.
So, but I'm just saying, like, that's just where we are right now. So you can't really sit around and wait on that no more.
Right.
If you did, you have missed out.
Right.
You have missed out.
I think another reason people are asking, like, is now a bad time to buy a house? I think you got the prices, but I think a big factor of that right there is interest rates.
Oh,
I think
no doubt.
people are looking at it and saying, hey, man, these rates in the sixes, we literally did a show yesterday, had a lender on the show. They quoted us the rates here. Again, we're East Tennessee, different, but low sixes for your government loans,
Right.
high sixes for your conventional loans. People's looking at that and saying, is now a bad time to buy because of that? That's a fair question. I think all of these are fair.
That is.
The prices, that's fair.
Yep.
Interest rates, that's a fair question.
Yep.
And, it goes back to that old thing we say all the time. If it's right for you, it's right. If it's wrong for you, it's wrong. I can't tell you, put a blanket over it and say that.
Right.
So that's, I think, a very fair question for people to ask themselves. If you can't afford the interest rates right now, yeah, it's a bad time to buy for you.
Yeah.
So yes to the question. I think a third thing that's making people look at that and say, is now a bad time to buy? I think it's just literally the uncertainty of our economy.
Yeah, just the economy as a
everything.
whole. Yeah.
They've been some people take a butt whipping here in the last couple of days on their
Stocks,
401ks and
Yeah.
all those things. That's uncertainty. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? We've all got the hopes, no matter what side of the fence you land on here, that everything's just great.
Right.
But it's uncertain.
Right.
So I think you have to ask that. I had a conversation literally with a gentleman just the other day. He said, hey, I've got this house. I think it's right for me and for me and my family. But he said, here's where I'm sitting at. I'm going to have, X amount of dollars to pay down. And I'm just going to use numbers here, but I'm close. I'm going to have to pay, 8% down payment. I'm going to have to pay $6,000 in closing costs. That's about $14,000. I've got $22,000 in the bank saved up right now.
Right.
With the economic uncertainty that's kind of there right now, that kind of scares me. Like,
Right.
What do you think I should do? I was like, man, I can't answer that question for you. Like, that's not for me to answer. But I think that's making people look at it and say, is now a bad time to buy a house? So I think it's a fair question.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
I think it's a very, very fair question. But more than asking, is now a bad time to buy? Let's discuss, okay? Those are the cons
Yeah.
to buy now. Let's talk about why now could be actually a smart move. Like, with all of that being said that we just talked about, are fair questions. Give me your thoughts on why could this actually be the smart time to go do this?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. Right now, if you are a buyer, you have less competition as far as other people looking for what you're looking for. Okay. So, uh, we said this yesterday when we had our show, but realistically, here's what could happen. If you're the person who's waiting on that interest rate to drop, if we wake up tomorrow morning and interest rates are 3.5%,
even I'm going to stop, even 5.5,
even 5.5%. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could go as little as 1%,
sure,
0.5%. There
not
are people
much.
who are on the fence that much.
Mhm.
It means that much to them. Okay. So, but if those people are now in the marketplace, you now have competition. Right now,
Sure.
your competition, I'm not saying you don't have competition right now,
Sure.
but you have less competition. Okay. So it's more likely that you are going to see, I'm going to talk about a couple of things here, but it's more likely that you're going to see that even your sellers are willing to negotiate with you a little bit more because they know that you are a serious buyer. Okay.
Absolutely.
They understand that. But if prices was to drop tomorrow, if interest rates was to drop tomorrow, then they will be buyers that flood the marketplace. Therefore, end of the day, if you've got competition, now that price may not be as cheap, even if we drop the price.
I'm with
When
you.
you got 10 people trying to buy the same house, now that's where you get back into
Yes.
over asking price
Going up.
offers. You're all back in that stuff again. So there's really not a best case scenario right there if all that stuff was to happen.
Sure.
The good news is right now you don't have as much competition.
No.
So if you find the house that you want, I feel like I could put this on repeat. If you find the house that you want, if it's in your budget, if it fits your needs, then yes, it's a good time right now for you to maybe look at buying.
I'm going back to what we said just a minute ago, 66 price reductions in our MLS in the last week. That in itself is reason why right now might be a smart time to do this.
Yeah.
And competition, you said, but the less competition opens up negotiating power for a buyer.
For a buyer, yes.
Seller's going to be a lot more flexible
Right.
if they're not getting all these showings. They're not getting all these offers that they had hoped that they would get when this thing started.
Right.
And when an offer does come, it might be 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Right now, it's 60 days, 55 to 60 days, depending on what MLS you look at in our area. You're 30 some days on the market. You're the first showing.
Right.
And nothing's happened. They're like, hey, offer comes in. Let's not lose these people.
Right.
So the negotiation power of you of a buyer is kind of really good.
Yeah.
At this point in time.
Yeah.
And all of those things that we're talking about or have told you why people think it's a bad time to buy, you can actually reverse that around and say, I could potentially get the price less.
Right.
I could get help with those closing costs. The seller may be more negotiable upon repairs, upon contingencies, upon all those things because you are the only game.
Right.
Like they ain't had nothing.
Right.
In 35, 45 days.
Right.
Trust me, y'all, if they got to sell that house, they're not trying to retire on it. They got to sell the house.
Right.
That makes now a smart time to jump in. Where even I think the spring market, I really do think that the spring market activity is going to pick up just because it's the spring.
Right.
That removes some of these reasons we're talking about that it's smart now. But if anything, I'm just telling you, if anything in pricing and interest rates moves very little more, it's already moving. But if it moves much more in favor of a buyer, there are a lot of people sitting out there.
We know that. There's a lot of people just waiting
to say, there it is.
Yep.
I can now get what I want.
Yeah.
Third thing let's talk about that I think another reason is now is actually a smart time to buy. If you look at projections, again, now these are people a whole lot more high up in the real estate world than me and you, economists and National Association of Realtors, and all these, we like to call them gurus.
Yeah.
They're all saying home prices will continue to go up.
Yes.
We've come off a period of time where they went up 40 and 50%.
Right. That ain't happening.
Not sustainable.
Yeah.
But I'm saying 3 to 5 to 8%, depending upon where you are in this country. That's what home prices are going to continue to go. So,
and they always have. They always have done that. Yeah,
that's normal. And so again, I'm an easy math guy. $400,000 house goes up 5%. I put you on the spot to do the math.
I have no.
That house is more.
Yeah.
Okay. 420,000 next year.
Guess.
Okay. 420 next year. That's why right now might be a smart time to buy the house.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be $20,000 more next year. If nothing does happen with the rates is going to be the same, but the house is going to cost more.
Absolutely.
Smart time to do it now.
Absolutely. Let's talk about one more.
Go with it.
One more is if you are renting right now. Okay. So if you are renting a house right now, renting an apartment, whatever, we just had a conversation this morning with an agent in our office. 9 years, for the last 9 years, these people have been renting, paying $2,400 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now think about that for a minute.
That's in East Tennessee.
That's in East Tennessee. If they was paying that mortgage,
sure.
You know what I mean? They have now built equity. They have been able to build equity in something. I know you hear this, but it's true. People don't like to hear this. And I'm not going to be the one, we'll talk about this later, but I'm not going to be the one that tells you that renting is not always the right answer.
Oh, no.
It is sometimes.
Absolutely.
It is sometimes. But just like we was talking about a minute ago, prices have went up on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Rent has went up drastically.
Yes.
Okay. So it ain't like you're still renting for $450 a month anymore.
Right.
Okay. $2,400 a month for a rental.
Sure.
Okay. So if you're renting right now and you want to become a homeowner, again, we say this, you hear this, but 6%, 8% interest is better than 100% interest.
Absolutely.
Because that's what you're paying when you're renting. Again, certain situations I understand, but if you are long-term renting, you might want to look at buying a house.
Absolutely. And all of that, what you're talking about, that adds up to what we're going to call a real cost of waiting.
Yeah.
There is a real cost of waiting. If those things move, again, interest rates, we can't predict those. We don't know about those. But if they drop, y'all, demand is spiking. It's going to push the prices up. Even though that rate and that payment be a little bit more, it will push the prices up.
Yeah.
That is supply and demand. That's economy 101, economics 101, whatever you want to say. But there's a real cost to you for there.
Oh, yeah.
Because that 3 to 5% that we just talked about, that might jump to 10 to 15%.
Right.
Now the $400,000 house is $440,000.
Right.
That's a real cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing you got to think about that, a lot of people go like, well, I mean, that's just part of it. 20 grand, 40 grand, whatever. You know what I mean? My rate's lower. It is 20 grand. It's 40 grand, but that is itemized. That's broken out over 30 years.
Right.
You're paying extra interest over 30 years on 40 grand.
A lot more now.
Now we got more than 40 grand.
More
now we got more than 20 grand.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so there is a real cost. People just like, I ain't worried about it. There is a real cost.
And I tell people, like, even if you just get your money back,
sure.
Even if, let's go worst case scenario, you sell a house and you just break even.
Right.
That's better than you're going to do when you're renting.
There's no doubt.
You know what I mean? You are losing that money forever.
That leads me, again, another real cost. Let's go back to that, what we just said, the analogy we just gave about the real cost if something happens to rates. The real cost of that even more is you could be the person that if you bought that house this year for $400,000, and let's go conservative with a 5% increase in prices, appreciation, you made 20 grand.
Right. You made money
For living in your house.
Yeah.
Okay, you made $20,000. If rates drop, you made 40 grand if it goes up 10% for living in your house, your
Yeah.
own house.
Right.
That's a real cost. I
It
mean,
is.
that's a
It
real
is.
cost. That's like a very good, what I'm going to say, stock play, y'all. Like, you know what I'm saying? There'd be people running down the road right now to line up to get a 10% return on their money
Oh,
in
yeah.
the next
Yeah.
year. People put them in the bank for savings accounts and all those things, and they get 0.2 and
Right. Not even
0.3
1%.
and tickled to death.
Yeah.
We're talking 5, 10 if something great goes in the real estate market. So I mean, again, that's something
Yeah.
to think about. But also, I think that a lot of people don't know about, which probably the last thing I'll say about this real cost. People are talking about the rates and all those things. Do you know that there's things right now called rate buy downs?
Absolutely.
Like where you literally can, because we know right now, one of the smart reasons to buy is the sellers may contribute some concessions. Do you know you could take some of that money right now and do a buy down
Right.
and buy your rate literally down in the 5s?
Yeah. So you ain't
Like
paying those
low
6s, high 6s
5s,
anymore.
high 4s, depending on what the buy down is. That's options.
Yeah.
But that's a real cost to you, because now I could get that low rate that I'm wanting. I can get that appreciation that I'm wanting. If you don't do it, it's real money. It's a real cost to you. So you got to think about those things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You got to think about those things. So, I mean, what would you say to people that are sitting out there right now thinking, okay, well, should I do it or should I not?
Yeah.
Cut to the chase. You've gave me facts on both sides of the fence. What y'all's thoughts? Should I do it or should I wait?
Yeah.
What's your thought?
So 3 reasons. I'm gonna give you 3 reasons here why I think that you should wait. Okay. Number 1, you should wait if you have unstable income or if you have credit issues.
I got you.
Okay. So common sense there. Again, if your credit's not where it needs to be, you probably need to wait a little bit because you ain't gonna get approved anyways.
Right.
If your income is up in jeopardy, your job is, your job is not stable,
Mm-hmm.
I would not jump into buying a house.
Right.
Okay. Tag team onto that. This is where I go about. I said I was going to address renting. If you're planning on only being somewhere for a year or two,
Mm-hmm.
I would not buy a house.
Sure.
You just said, great point. You could 5%, you could make 20 grand. Okay. I totally get that. And there's a very good chance that you could.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know you're only going to be there for a year, 2 years,
Right.
I would not. I would just pay my rent,
Right.
and I would move on.
You won't hear that everywhere.
Yeah, you won't hear that
You
everywhere.
won't hear that everywhere.
But I would not take that chance. If
Right.
it was me, I would not do that.
Right.
Use your own judgment, okay?
Sure.
That's the other one. Third one is if you just ain't comfortable with the rates that we got today,
Right.
okay? Again, like I said, can you do buy downs? Absolutely.
Sure.
But some people, we've said this about a ton of different stuff. Some people look at a physical number and they cannot get past that.
No.
If it just burns you, the interest rates are 6.5%, and 2 years ago they was 2.
Sure. Yeah.
And that just really
They
just
can't get past it.
chaps you. You know what I mean? They just
Right.
cannot get over that. Well, then just don't worry about it.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about
Good
it.
point.
Don't buy the house.
Good point.
It's not for you.
No. So that's, again,
It's 3 reasons why I think you should not buy.
sure, 3 reasons you should not.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's think about those things. I'm going to give you 3 that you should.
Okay.
Okay. And they're pretty much opposite of you are financially stable.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? You know where you're going to be.
Got a
This
good
is
secure
it.
job.
I got a good job. I'm financially stable. Well,
Right.
you got a lot to gain. Okay.
Right.
You got a lot to gain by becoming a homeowner. That's why everybody wants to become a homeowner. Okay. You got a lot to gain. Another reason is if you want to go ahead and start building that wealth, I say it all the time. Some people agree, some people disagree. Being a homeowner is a great way to build wealth. We've gave you those examples.
Yeah.
Home price goes up, your net worth just went up, y'all.
Yeah.
That's a good reason. You have to look at that and say. And the other reason now I think is like, you probably should do this. You do have less competition. You do have opportunities for negotiations. Sellers are becoming a little bit more flexible, all because of the things that we've talked about today, the prices, the rates, their home sitting on the market. They're getting nervous. They don't
Right.
know if they're going to do this or not. It's opening up a little bit of opportunity for people that's looking to buy a house right now.
Yep.
But I go back to say two things and I'll be done. Two things I want to say for you. That rate or that price ticks down a little bit, that all changes.
It all changes, man.
That
It really
all
does.
changes about,
I know people
as
don't want
a
to hear that.
buyer, you having a good opportunity. That all changes.
Yeah.
Second thing I want to say, and I think you will 100% agree with me on this, to really 100% answer the question, is now a bad time to buy a home? If it's bad for you, it's bad.
It's bad.
Forget what anybody else says.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yep.
You got to make that decision your own self. You need to look at the things we've talked about today. You need to weigh out your options. But here's what I'm going to say. It does not cost you anything to explore that option.
Right.
That's what a lot of people miss, I think.
Right.
It does not cost you anything to explore that option.
Yeah.
How do I explore that option, guys? Go talk to the person going to give you the money, the lender, the banker, your mom, whoever. What's that money going to cost you?
Mm-hmm.
What is getting that money going to cost me? Find that out.
Yep.
Then find you a real estate agent that you know I can get this much money. Take me and show me homes in my area, my neck of the woods, that for this much money I can get. Go do a little bit of homework yourself.
Yeah.
You'll quickly find out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's bad for me because there ain't no way I'd live in this house and that's all I can afford.
Right.
I can do better renting.
Right.
Answer the question. Don't let somebody else sit in a chair somewhere doing something telling you it's bad. Because on the other flip side of that coin, you might go talk to that person giving you that money. You might find there's grants available. There's interest rate buy downs available. The money's not as much as you thought it was going to be for you to get.
Right.
You can get more at a lower rate for a lower payment. Then you go do the same thing. You go look and you're like, oh my goodness, I never thought I would be able to live in a place like this.
Mm-hmm.
Goes back to the conversation you said we had this morning in our meeting. $2,400 a month these people pay for the last 9 years. They have now looked at it. They've weighed their options and they're like, for what I'm paying to rent a house, I can go do this. Mm-hmm. And I never thought that's something that I could do. So check it out. You know what I mean? Go check it out.
Yeah, make sure. I think moral of the whole story, what you just summing up, but like, be careful who you listen to.
Absolutely.
I'm saying as far as your advice.
Absolutely.
It's really easy, man. And I'm just saying in today's world that we live in, there's the keyboard warriors, there's all these people who just, they want to spew negative, they're dream crushers, all this other stuff.
Right.
They don't know your situation.
No.
Okay. So sometimes it's okay to seek a professional opinion.
Absolutely.
Because they don't know that you're paying $3,000 a month for rent. They don't understand that you've been doing that for the last 4 years. You've been listening. There's some people right now who's been listening to people.
Correct.
For the last 3 or 4 years saying it's going to crash. Yep. It's all coming down. Don't do it now. All the meanwhile, you've been paying $3,000 a month for rent, waiting.
And would have made $100,000.
And would have made $100,000. Absolutely.
Crazy.
So just be careful who you listen to.
Yes, absolutely.
Be
if
careful.
You are anywhere in the country, we're nationwide here. You're anywhere in the country, you've watched this. You're like, hey, that makes a little bit of sense to me.
Yeah.
Y'all know anybody I can talk to? We know people all over the country.
Yep.
Okay. We can hook you up anywhere. You're in the East Tennessee area. You want to explore those options for yourself. You want to dig deep into your personal financial situation. We would love nothing more than to sit down with you, have a conversation. Again, it costs you nothing for you to explore that out for yourself. Reach out to us on whatever platform you're watching or listen to us on. We'll be glad to have that conversation with
Absolutely.
you. Anything else, my man?
That's it, man. Good one today.
Good info. Again, we've answered the question today. We've gave you information for you to answer the question. Is now a bad time to buy a house? Well, you need to explore and you need to find that out for yourself. We've gave you the tips and the tricks for you to look for. Hopefully, if you're buying in East Tennessee, you're calling us here at Elite Realty Group. That does it for us on today's episode of the Elite Realty Group Podcast. Whatever you're watching or listening to us on, make sure you like and subscribe for future episodes that are coming out. For Dave Elkins, for all of us at Elite Realty Group, I'm Mike Elkins, and we're glad you took time to listen and watch us today. We will see you again next week on the next episode of the Elite Realty Group Podcast.